Hi, and welcome to week 7 of the grid. We're already in district play now, Ray. The year's just kind of flown by, and now we're getting down to cases where all these games start to matter as far as a team's playoffs hopes. And first of all, we're here on Wednesday, a day early, but we do have a Thursday game. It'll be a district game. The Bay City Black Cats are going up to Rosenberg's Trailer Stadium to play the Fulshire Chargers. So we will have a game on Thursday. And before we go into the rest of the games on Friday night, we want to take a look back at last week and kind of look what happened. And I guess the biggest news from last week is obviously the forfeit by Calhoun. And we'll kind of go through that just a little bit. You've probably read about it and heard about it. But basically, what happened is Calhoun had a player ejected from the second half of the Gregory Portland game, which was the week before. It was Calhoun's district opener, which it won. The UIL rule states that in football, if a player is ejected from a game, that player has to sit out the first half of the next game. Well, the confusion here was Coach Richard Whitaker at Calhoun never got a report from the officials, which normally when you do have a player ejected, you get a report. And just so you know, there have been instances where ejections are revoked, so to speak, that the officials may look at the game tape and say that didn't warrant an ejection, so we're pulling it back. Well, he never got word on that, and obviously his mistake, which he has admitted, is not calling the UIL to find out for sure. So when that player played in the Alice game, which Calhoun won handily, beat Alice 55-7, therefore, because that player played, he was ineligible. Calhoun self-reported the violation to the UIL, and as a result, they have forfeited that game to Alice, which goes from a win to a loss, which means Calhoun goes from 2-0 in district to 1-1 in district. So it's a tough situation for the Sand Crabs there, but I was out there this week, and one thing we should mention on that game, that all the individual statistics in that game still count. And there's a bit of good news for Calhoun because that fullback Steve Johnson, who by the way is only a junior, broke the school career rushing record in that game. And he did it kind of dramatically. He scored on a 70-yard touchdown run, and that put him over the record, which was held by Jacorius Williams, who Calhoun fans may remember. He actually went to play at Eastern New Mexico. So really good accomplishment there for Steve Johnson. And of course, the Crabs will try to bounce back. They go to Corpus this week and they play Tolosa Midway.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game for Calhoun, and like you said, Mike, Steve Johnson breaking that record, definitely puts a bright spot for, a weekend that they want to forget and get past. And, give credit to Richard Whitaker. They want to learn from it and just move on. And that's what the Calhoun's hoping to do, and hopefully they'll try to bounce back with a win against TM.
Yeah, the best thing I saw out of this is just he owned up to the mistake. Mm-hmm. He didn't make excuses. He didn't try to pass it off. He owned up to it. The players rallied behind him. And, the fact is, if they can win the rest of their district games, which, of course, the district season ends with Cal Allen, if they can win the rest of their games, Calhoun will actually be no worse than tied for first. So there's still a lot of football to be played, and we'll see how this plays out. And as we go into this week, a huge game for the Victoria East Titans, right, Ray? They have to go down to Corpus Christi and play the unbeaten in district Flower Bluff Hornets.
Yeah, that's right. And Victoria East, same situation as last year. They find themselves 3-1 and looking to extend that. Flower Bluff isn't going to be easy just because it's going to be their toughest opponent yet. But definitely a lot of momentum coming off those 2 wins against Flower Bluff and Carroll. They've got a huge lift from Alan Jimenez with William Garley being out, who, according to running back coach Jeff Herta, Garley will be back against the Hornets, so that gives them that 1-2 punch in the backfield with Jimenez and Garley. So East hoping to take advantage of that against the Hornets. Flower Bluff comes in and, they're, like you said, Mike, they're first place. Coach Steinbruck's done a really good job with those guys, and they'll be ready to go. So East will have to play their best game.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed about Flower Bluff is its defense must be tremendous. I think they gave up some garbage points last week against Moody,
Right.
but otherwise, I believe they shut out Veterans Memorial, didn't they? And
Yes.
they are playing outstanding defense. So this will be a good test for East. I mean, it's not a must-win as far as the playoffs go, but it is a must-win to get in the top two, almost, you would think.
Yeah, East would like to, go for it. They find themselves 3-1. Why not go for having a home playoff game if they can get that far? You look at these two teams over the past 2 years. Flower Bluff has won the last two meetings. East did win the game before that, but so Titans hoping to get in the win column against the Hornets.
Yeah, and they won't be the only local school going to Corpus. The West Warriors come off their bye week, and they're going to go down and play the Carroll Tigers. Well, we've talked about Carroll before. It's had a tough season. It's lost 18 straight games. This is a game that the Warriors must win. I mean, if they want to have any kind of playoff hopes, they need to go down and take care of business.
That's right, Mike. West, this is their chance to get back in it if they want to have a chance, like you said. And, Carroll's just the opponent for them to, hopefully get that win and get back on track.
Yeah. And as we said, district play is going to be opening, all around the area. Virtually almost every team, with the exception of a couple of private schools, will be playing district games. And speaking of private schools, St. Joseph Flyers, they're going to head over to Edna Cowboy Memorial Stadium, and they open district, and boy, they have their hands full right away. The Flyers have to play Houston Second Baptist, and the Eagles of Second Baptist have just been annihilating people there. That is the team to beat in that district. The Flyers, the good news is they come off a really impressive win over Rock Springs last week. They had to go all the way to Uvalde, but they were just happy to play after what's happened to them this season. But obviously a tough task for the Flyers to start out district.
Yeah, Houston Second Baptist, they've beaten St. Joseph the past 2 years. So, St. Joseph hoping third time's the charm, when it comes to them. But like you said, Mike, huge win over Rock Springs. They scored 60 points. St. Joseph hoping to carry that momentum against the Eagles.
Right, and one of the districts we've been kind of focused in on is 14-3A Division I. Obviously a very competitive district there, and two of the games there will really kind of, big games to start out with as we get into this district race. One of them will have Edna going over to Hallettsville, and the other one is we have Yoakum going to Vanderbilt to play Industrial. Obviously, this will be a good early indication of maybe who the favorites are in this district. Yoakum was ranked at the beginning of the year, but even Coach Bo Robinson said, we're a very young, inexperienced team. He did say he thought they would be good by the end of the year. Well, now's the time where they really need to take a step. Well, meanwhile, Industrial has played very well. Its only loss has been to Shiner. And so I'm sure, and last year that game was fairly competitive, so I'm sure both teams are looking ahead to this game.
Yeah, that's right. This is the district, everyone's kind of been waiting for to start. You look at last year, all these so many competitive teams, and like you just said, Mike, Industrial is in the mix now. And I'd even say Hallettsville, they've had a strong preseason, so it's going to be interesting to see who's there in the end.
Yeah, and of course, like you said, Edna and Hallettsville, that's always interesting. That's kind of almost a real contrast in styles there, huh? You have the wide open Brahmas, with Jonathan Brooks and Lane Lenhart, going against that, the slot T for Edna with, which I believe Javante Seymour will be back. He's kind of not played much the last couple of games because of injuries. So I think the week off helped both teams heal, so that should be a really good contest right there. And also, speaking of teams that were ranked at the beginning of the season, the Cuero Gobblers. I mean, boy, the fans there, I'm sure, scratching their heads. But Let's face it, Coach Travis Reed knew he had a lot of rebuilding to do. I mean, we've talked about this before, only 5 starters back from that state championship team. The Gobblers have really struggled early. They got a win over Bay City, and ever since then they've lost 4 straight. Well, they opened district against Bandera at Gobbler Stadium, and this is a really critical test because Bandera is 5-0, but really you're not sure who the quality of their opponents, and we're going to find out tomorrow night because the Gobblers, this is a game that the Gobblers want to win because the back end of their schedule is where they're going to face Navarro and Wimberley.
Right.
So these are the games that Cuero really needs to win.
Yeah, that's right. And Coach Travis Reeve, he's going to have these guys ready. And as much as the Gobblers are rebuilding, that this is the time that they've been waiting for. And Coach Travis Reeve knows that this is when the real season starts.
Right. And also looking around at our ranked teams, number 1, Refugio, they go into district, and we've talked about this before too. Last year, Refugio yielded only 7 points in its 5 district games, and they pretty much wiped out everyone. The key here for the Bobcats is just to make sure that they're improving and doing what they need to do to get ready for the playoffs. And meanwhile, number 2, Shiner, which went through non-district 6-0, really just never really had a close game even. Shiner opens district against Yorktown, and Yorktown is, Yorktown's kind of had an up and down non-district schedule, but so they get that started off. And our other number 1 team, the Fall City Beavers, they'll get their stiffest test when they play La Feria. That's going to be, La Pryor. I said La Feria. La Pryor has some excellent athletes, has an outstanding athlete at quarterback, so I'm sure Fall City is expecting a test right there. So, like we said, there's a lot of district games this week. First week of district, you want to get off on the right foot, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and of course, a big game, like we said, we want to go back a minute for the Titans this week. If the Titans win this game, that puts them in a position technically to either finish first or second in district. They still have Veterans Memorial to play.
Yeah, that's right. And if you look at last year, as I mentioned before, East being in the same boat, both starting off kind of slow, not winning a preseason game, and then coming around in district. And that's exactly what's happening again. And we all saw last year how East, struggled in the first round of the playoffs against Mission Veterans Memorial, and they had to play that game on the road. So the Titans are going to do what they can to hopefully change that.
Right. Well, we'll have all the scores as usual on our Twitter and our website, avosports.com. You can follow us there. And we'll have all the wrap-ups and the grid on Sunday. And, of course, we'll be back again next week. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them to us, and we'll do our best to get them answered. Until then, we'll see you next week on the grid.